Saturn and Pluto, the allegory of power. The 1833 painting Napoleon Allegory by Jean-Baptiste Moses captures the synthesis. In the painting, Napoleon is writing the Napoleonic Code. Behind him stands Saturn. At first glance, it seems a simple moral allegory, the lawgiver writing under the watch of time. But Moses knew his iconography. Saturn is not punishing Napoleon, he is crowning him. The scythe that once reaped destruction now stands as a symbol of pruning and order, of the disciplined reaper who cuts chaos into structure. Napoleon, born with Pluto in Capricorn, performs the work of both planets. Pluto's power to destroy and regenerate, and Capricorn's devotion to structure, ruled by Saturn. Moses paints Napoleon as the very fusion of these archetypes, a transformative power rebuilding the world's framework after its collapse. Napoleon's Code Civil was designed not merely for France, but for posterity. It sought permanence, the dream of every Capricornian creation. This painting, then, is not simply imperial propaganda. It is an astrological allegory of transformation through discipline, the fusion of cosmic law and human order. In mythic terms, Napoleon becomes the Saturnian architect wielding Pluto's forge. His legacy is not the empire of battlefields, but the invisible empire of administration, the structure through which modern Europe still breathes. Britain's machine and its American paradox. While Napoleon was engineering order on the continent, Britain's system, its own machine of money, ships, and paper, had mastered the art of turning public credit into global power. Parliament's authority to tax and borrow made long wars economically sustainable. Investors trusted that their bonds would be repaid, and that confidence became the invisible backbone of empire. The fiscal naval state was a logistical marvel. Dockyards at Portsmouth, Chatham, and Deptford turned raw materials into fleets. Convoys protected merchant shipping and allowed Britain to finance war through trade. But the very coherence of the system made it easy to misread abroad. In British North America, imperial officials assumed that the colonies could be managed through the same combination of regulation and credit that worked at home. Taxes would fund defense, laws would ensure loyalty, but local assemblies had already learned the habits of self-government. Here lies the paradox. Britain's own institutions trained its future rebels. Colonial militias adopted imperial methods of organization and supply. Colonial assemblies learned financial accountability from Westminster itself. When the colonies revolted in 1775, they used Britain's own rational instruments, its discipline, its record-keeping, its sense of order, to resist imperial control. The American Revolution was not the revolt of chaos against order, but of one disciplined system against another. The empire had taught its subjects to think, to deliberate, to coordinate, and those skills could not be unlearned. Thus, Britain's great machine demonstrated the hidden truth of Pluto in Capricorn. Every structure that perfects control also plants the seeds of its undoing. From public order to private reason. If Napoleon represents the outer architecture of this Plutonian Capricornian age, Jane Austen represents its interior rooms, the domestic and psychological architecture of a society that still depended on hierarchy but was learning to question it. Jane Austen, Formation, Limits, and How the Novels Undercut Uncertainty. Jane Austen was born the 16th of December, 1775 at Steventon Rectory, Hampshire, into the stable but financially modest household of the Reverend George and Cassandra Austen. Her upbringing was shaped by Anglican order and middle-class fragility, a household rich in books but short on income. Educated partly at home and briefly at boarding schools, she absorbed the literary canon of her day: Richardson, Fielding, Johnson, Shakespeare, Burney, and began writing the lively children's literature between 1787 and 1793. These early works already showed her genius for irony, precision, and social diagnosis. In the 1790s, she drafted early versions of Eleanor and Marianne, First Impressions, and Susan, prototypes of Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and Northanger Abbey. Her family's financial insecurity intensified after her father's death in 1805, and only in 1809, when her brother Edward offered her a home at Chawton Cottage, did she find stability enough to publish. Her novels appeared anonymously by a lady between 1811 and 1817, earning modest income but immense respect. She died in 1817 at the age of 41, still largely unknown to the public. The Rectory as Institution: How Order Shapes Consciousness. The Rectory was itself a small institution, miniature Capricornian order. Prayer, accounting, and moral duty formed its daily rhythm. The Austens lived close to the gentry but without their wealth. Their respectability depended on reputation and restraint. This environment trained Austen in the ethics of small systems, how social survival depends on routine, and how dignity is preserved through decorum. Her novels translate those lessons into moral architecture. Each book becomes an X-ray of the laws, customs, and contracts that govern private life, the institutions of the heart. In Sense and Sensibility, 1811, the Dashwood women confront the legal machinery of primogeniture, cut off from inheritance, reduced from comfort to subsistence. The plot is not merely romantic, it is economic. Lucy Steele's manipulations are not villainy, they are survival within a rigged system. Pride and Prejudice, 1813, revolves around the Longbourn entail, the legal mechanism that disinherits 5 daughters. Charlotte Lucas's pragmatic marriage to Mr. Collins is a rational adaptation to systemic risk. Elizabeth Bennet's refusals of Collins and Darcy mark a moral rebellion against a structure that equates security with submission. In Emma, 1815, the parish becomes a microcosm of governance. Emma's social meddling mirrors a ruler's overreach. Her humiliation of Miss Bates serves as her moral Waterloo, a reminder that true order protects the vulnerable, not the privileged. And in Persuasion, 1817, the Navy replaces hereditary rank as the model of earned merit. Anne Elliot's delayed union with Captain Wentworth affirms a new moral hierarchy: service over vanity, consent over coercion. Through wit and irony, Austen dismantles uncertainty by showing that instability in women's lives was not natural. It was engineered by law and inheritance. Like Napoleon, she sought reform through structure, not destruction. Parallels, hidden structures, shared work. Napoleon's France ran on reports and prefects. Austen's England on entails and expectations. Both worlds depended on invisible mechanisms of compliance. Both creators revealed those mechanisms, and in doing so, humanized them. Napoleon wrote the Code Civil, teaching citizens that the law could be made rational. Austen wrote her novels, teaching readers that the law of the heart must be governed by reason, too. Each made structure visible, moralized, and in their own way divine. The generational rhythm: both were born under Pluto and Capricorn, and their personalities were formed as Pluto moved into Aquarius, the era of revolutionary ideas, and came into full power as Pluto entered Pisces, when emotion, faith, and idealism transformed the Enlightenment's rational order into romantic introspection. Napoleon's reign reached its height between 1804 and 1815, with Pluto in Pisces, when his ideal of rational control dissolved in the floods of war and overreach. Austen's novels, written between 1811 and 1817, represent the same transit turned inward: the emotional and ethical reconciliation of a society seeking balance after revolution. By the end of this arc, Waterloo and Austen's death closed the cycle, yet their legacies endured: the Code Civil and the Novel of Manners, 2 parallel systems that taught generations how to live within law, reason, and restraint.